Sunlight leaks through tangled leaves, but the truth beneath them is startling. A plant once full of promise is now suffocating under its own weight. Not because it lacked water, fertilizer, or care, only because it was never given the direction it deserved. Today, this tomato plant isn't just being pruned, it's being rescued. Every cut, every branch removed, every hidden tomato revealed is a reminder that neglect, even with the best intentions, can quietly steal your harvest before you ever taste it. This is more than trimming, this is transformation. What stands before you now is the result of months of unchecked growth. A single tomato planted in May has exploded into a dense, wild mass of vines, leaves, and unending suckers fighting for space, light, and nutrients. At a distance, it looks lush, almost impressive. But up close, the real story becomes clear. The strawberries planted around it have disappeared under its shadow. The soil struggles to breathe. Tomatoes that should have been plump and visible are instead hidden deep in darkness, starved of air and sun. It's not just overgrown, it's overwhelmed. Pruning isn't simply about tidiness. It's a decision to give your plant the energy to feed its fruit instead of feeding endless foliage. When a tomato is left to sprawl, its roots are forced to support every inch of green growth, every unnecessary shoot, every sucker reaching for dominance. That means smaller fruit, slower ripening, and sometimes no harvest worth celebrating. But when you cut strategically, when you open up airflow and direct that energy upward into the core stems, something powerful happens. Tomatoes become bigger, juicier, faster to ripen, and far less susceptible to disease. This is especially true with indeterminate tomato varieties, the kind that grow and produce continuously all season long. These plants can be shaped, guided, and controlled without sacrificing their potential. But determinate tomatoes, the smaller bush type, must be allowed to grow without aggressive pruning. They deliver one main crop, then stop. Cutting them reduces, not enhances, what they're capable of producing. This distinction matters because it determines whether your cuts make a stronger plant or destroy a fruitful one. As the first branch falls, light breaks into the plant like oxygen reaching a sealed room. It reveals clusters of tomatoes previously invisible, ripening in secret. Some are already blushing red. Others sit still and green, waiting for sunlight they never received. The interior wasn't empty, it was buried. The plant wasn't failing, it was suffocating. With each removed sucker, the structure becomes clearer. A sucker, that little stem growing right where a leaf meets the main stalk, may look harmless. But left untouched, it becomes another full branch, another fruiting arm, another competing drain on the plant's resources. It's how a simple tomato becomes a jungle. Pinching them out early is the difference between focused production and chaotic sprawl. The larger branches must fall carefully. Some have no tomatoes at all, only leaves demanding energy. Others are heavy but shading everything beneath them. Each removal opens new channels of air, and airflow matters more than most gardeners realize. Air movement reduces fungal issues, keeps insects from nesting comfortably, and prevents disease from creeping upward through damp, dense foliage. A tomato plant should let light pass. You should be able to look at it and see through it. If you can't, pruning isn't optional, it's necessary. As the middle clears, the plant takes on a new identity. Where once it sprawled outward in a thick dome of green, now it rises vertically in a defined structure. Harvesting becomes easier. Sunlight can finally reach the stems. The soil surface gets the dryness it needs to avoid mold and bacteria. The plant is the same tomato you started with, but now it can breathe. A note of caution hangs over the heat of summer. The newly exposed tomatoes and leaves, once sheltered under shade, now sit directly beneath harsh midday rays. They're vulnerable. That sudden exposure can scorch fruit and burn foliage unless shielded temporarily. Even a simple umbrella or lightweight shade cloth during the first few days will prevent shock and give the plant time to adapt. Pruning is powerful, but recovery requires gentleness. Near the top, the plant splits into several large leaders. Cutting too high risks topping it prematurely, signaling the plant to stop producing new fruit and focus only on ripening what already exists. Not today. The top remains intact, supported by a stronger stake now added beside it. Its growth continues upward, directed, but not halted. The soil receives a mid-season feeding, tomato-specific fertilizer blended in a band around the base, then watered deeply. The roots, now freed from the burden of excess foliage, can channel nutrients directly into fruit production. It isn't just pruning that fuels growth, it's feeding at the right moment. Across the garden, smaller tomato plants stand ready, still early in their journey. Their stems are slender, their leaves spaced, their suckers small and easy to remove. This is how tomatoes should look from the beginning. One main stem, clear airflow, foliage lifted off the soil to avoid splashback disease. They are still guided rather than corrected. Their path is simpler because the gardener intervened early, not after chaos bloomed. This is the gift of pruning at the right time: clarity, control, abundance. Today's overhaul isn't evidence of failure, it's proof of learning. Letting a tomato grow wild isn't wrong, it simply teaches what happens when lack of pruning compounds over weeks. But the comeback is always possible. A plant that looked lost now stands open, defined, productive, and newly lit from within. Not every tomato you cut away today was wasted. In truth, only a few small fruits were sacrificed, and in exchange, the plant now has space, focus, and strength to produce bigger, better, richer tomatoes than it ever could in its dense state. A gardener doesn't just grow plants. A gardener shapes life, redirects growth, and creates balance between what nature wants to do and what produces real abundance. That is what pruning is, not destruction, but design. Curiosity and discipline, together, create harvest. The leaves that fall today make room for tomatoes that will feed your table tomorrow. The stems you lift and tie now become the ones heavy with fruit in late summer. The effort you invest transforms chaos into clarity. A tomato plant doesn't thrive because it grows. It thrives because it is guided. And with that, the garden breathes again.